Well, welcome to the 700 Club. Religious freedom is a pillar of American democracy, and Secretary of State Mike Pompeo hopes to see that freedom spread across the globe. Recently, he sat down with CBN's David Brody to share his vision.
Their wide-ranging discussion also touched on issues of the day, including immigration and the ongoing battle between President Trump and Democrat members of Congress. Here's David's exclusive interview with Secretary Pompeo.
Given his role as America's top diplomat, you never can predict where Secretary of State Mike Pompeo might be.
Nice to see you. Great to see you again.
We met him back home in Washington, overseeing an important priority, his second annual ministerial to advance religious freedom. Faith leaders from all over the world have come to the State Department to pursue better ways to fight worldwide religious persecution.
We know we're blessed here. It's our first freedom enshrined in the U.S. Constitution, but that's not the case everywhere.
That's for sure. Religious persecution is on the rise, but the number of refugees allowed into the United States to escape is much lower than in previous administrations. Just 30,000 refugees will gain asylum this year. Pompeo says a goal of this conference is to find solutions so refugees have a better life at home.
Our mission set has been to try and create the conditions inside their own country so that they can have that religious freedom. There'll be no need to leave their country, their friends, their people, their church, their synagogue, their mosque, all the things that they know and love.
Religious freedom is an essential human right. To that end, the Trump administration is creating a new commission on unalienable rights to help specifically define those freedoms. Liberal groups are concerned that it could mean a rollback of certain rights for women and minority groups.
You know this, David. When you start to say that all thousands of things are rights, it diminishes these most fundamental freedoms. It diminishes these essential rights, the right to freedom of worship, the most powerful things that each create our dignity as human beings. And so we're going to go take a good look at that. We're going to ground it in the Founding Fathers' understanding. We're going to ground it in our Constitution.
Also grounded in the Constitution, a nation of faith. For Secretary of State Mike Pompeo, this ministerial on religious freedom is personal. His Christian faith is at the center of his life, and it compels him to act. This is something that you wear on your sleeve, and it's very important to you.
Look, as a Christian, we have these fundamental understandings from the Bible that talk about how you treat other human beings.
And that's a subject of criticism for this administration over the treatment of migrant families at detention centers. To handle the record number of illegal immigrants coming to America, the State Department and other agencies have just put in place a third country rule requiring immigrants to first apply for asylum in a country they travel through before trying America.
Every country has a duty, and it's under international law too, that says folks who travel have this obligation to stay in the first country that they can go to that is safe if they're seeking asylum. I wish that Congress would pass laws that would make this simpler and more straightforward, but the President has directed us each to use each legal method that we can find to try and achieve this outcome so that we can protect American sovereignty and to keep the American people safe.
America's safety and loving this country is definitely in the headlines.
If they're not happy here, they can leave.
This week, President Trump is holding fast after telling certain freshman congresswomen and others to leave the country if they don't like America. In our interview, Pompeo backed the president up.
Look, when a handful of members of Congress say things that are in the tone of the fact that they blame America for so much of the trouble in the world, that's deeply troubling. We are a force for good in the world, not a force for evil. We are not the cause of these conflicts. And I hear these members of Congress talk about this as if America had generated this trouble. And to blame America first for these things is deeply inconsistent with not only our founding and our tradition, but with the facts on the ground.
The controversy started with President Trump's tweet saying certain progressive congresswomen should go back to their countries if they didn't like it here. Democrats immediately called the president a racist. Pompeo, who is close to Trump, said absolutely not. What do you know about him as president that can speak to this issue about what we have heard so far this week about some of the tweets and some of the controversy surrounding this?
Each and every time we've talked about a particularly difficult situation or how to respond to a threat that's imposed on us, it's been about data and facts coming up with a set of policy options that are achievable. That is, we believe you have to be realistic. You have to take the world as it is. You can't pretend that something else is going to transpire that you know is very unlikely. And we've worked on that. And he's done this in every country. He's done this regardless of the race of the individuals in that country, the religion. It is about delivering these good outcomes.
And so you're saying race has nothing to do with this?
Never seen it. Yeah. Not once.
What he has seen is an administration that has put religious freedom right at the top of their agenda, and it's something he takes special pride in. David Brody, CBN News, Washington.
Religious freedom should be at the top of our agenda and has been part of the international policy of the United States going back to 1948. That's when Eleanor Roosevelt encouraged the UN to adopt the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. And in that document, there is freedom of religion, and then it adds to it freedom of thought, and then freedom of conscience. It went further than even our own Bill of Rights to say people need to be absolutely free to think their own thoughts, believe their own religious beliefs, and then be free to act. Freedom of conscience. It's a wonderful declaration, and it's great to see a State Department saying, let's make this front and center on our international policy. Today, we have more Christian persecution, literally the greatest it's ever been. You've got to go back to the Roman period to find anything more severe than what is happening right now in the Middle East, in India, in China. They're putting Christians in jail just because of their beliefs. And to have this to be a pillar of our American foreign policy, kudos to the administration, kudos to Secretary Pompeo.